There's nothing better than having power wherever you are. No noisy generator, no need for a campground. Just flip a switch and you're good to go. Let me show you the components I used and how to hook them up. Got my Renogy Solar Kit now. This one's 200 watts. Well, this panel's 100. 200 watt panels. What I actually got was their new 200 watt kit. This is part of it. It's an MPPT charge controller. All the wire, the fuse, the mounts for my panels. And then there's more. We'll get to that eventually. We'll get to all of this. I'll show you how all this stuff works. What I'm thinking is I would like to have them hang in here. Then I'll put them on like a gas strut so they'll fold up. I want to tie these together, these two panels, so that they open and close as one. So I'm going to cut a few aluminum strips, about 2 3/4. Later on, I removed the bottom mounting brackets and ran a piece of aluminum angle across the panels. This tied them together nicely and made for much more rigid support when propped up. So I went and bought a thicker piece of aluminum. This is 2 3/4 by 1/4 inch thick. This is going to bridge the studs. So there's a stud here, here, and here. Now I'm going to mount my solar panels on this piece of aluminum. So I've got a stud here. This is center. Edge of the studs should be somewhere in there. I'm going to cut this off right here. I think I'm going to cut 3 equal spacers out of this. Now I need to mark where my holes are going to go. There's a stud right here. I'm just going to make a line. Use a square to mark all these. Right there. There's where one stud is. There's the other one. 3/4 of an inch in. And 3/4 of an inch in. So this is the brace. I need to figure out where my hinges are going to land on this and this. So for right now, I'm going to mount this. I'm just going to screw this down to a 2x4. So it's good and sturdy. I think it'll probably make it a little bit easier for me. The reason for those spacers is to create space for the head of the hinge bolts. Now I've got all my holes drilled. I'm going to pull it apart because I'm going to mount this with the hinges. Then I'm going to mount the solar panels to the hinges. 3 3/8. 3 3/8. I know it seems like a lot of steps to put it up and take it down just to put it back up again. But it actually makes it a lot easier to get your screw holes without the spacers. Then I can put silicone in between each piece so there's no leaks. Now that that's up, I need my spacers behind it. One thing I am kind of concerned about is I'm not sure how these frames tie together. If it's just this corner piece, that holds this top piece on, that means if everything's just hanging from the top, potentially the top could rip off and then the solar panel could fall off. Now, I don't know if that's the case, but just to be safe, I'm gonna take a thin piece of aluminum strap and I'm gonna run it from here to here, which will tie the bottom together at these 2 bolts. Then there's no way it can come apart. This stuff should work fine. All right, now comes the fun part. Not easy. We'll just pin one, swivel it over, pin the other. All right, put it on a flat washer and a nylock nut. Yeah, that'll work. So in case somebody wants to replicate this kit, I just want to show you what all I got. In my cabin, I just ordered a full kit from Renogy. It had everything I needed. This one I got in separate components. So I went with this little 100 amp hour mini core battery. This is a LiFePO battery, and this thing only weighs like 20 pounds, which is awesome because if you were to use a lead acid marine battery, it'd be, I think they're like 45, 50 pounds. This thing weighs nothing. It's 100 amp hours. It's 1,280 watt hours. So this is gonna work awesome. It's gonna keep the weight down in my camper. Really looking forward to seeing how this does. For the solar component, it's their new 200 watt solar kit. And that came with the panels. You've already seen. Comes with a 20 amp MPPT charge controller, which is what you want. It's got both your solar cables. I believe there's 20 feet here. It's got your inline fuse for your solar cables. It's got the mounting brackets. It's got a 20 amp mega fuse. All the cables you need to go to the battery. And it comes with a Bluetooth module. I'm not going to use that. That's just me. So that's the solar kit. This thing is probably going to be just about perfect for what I need. I don't plan on using a lot of AC power, so I only went with the 1,000 watt pure sine wave inverter. What's really awesome about this is I'm going to mount this in the outside compartment with everything else, but it's got a remote. So this remote is going to be mounted inside the camper so I can turn the inverter on and off from inside. That comes with the cables that you need. And then just to be safe, I also got an AC battery charger for the LiFePO battery. This is good to have just in case you need it. Say I forgot a bunch of stuff was turned on, drained the battery down, and I wanted to charge it up quick and use it the next day. Really good to have around the house, or you know, I could take it with me if I wanted. Just a little extra precaution. Not necessary, but if you're kind of absent-minded, it's not a bad idea to have something like this. When I built the camper, I've got this nice open space back here, and I kind of had in mind putting the inverter, the charge controller, the battery, all that back here. But after I mounted the panels on the very back of the trailer, I realized the tongue is getting a little bit lighter. So instead of that, I think I'm going to put the battery up here at the front of this compartment, which will be in front of the wheel well, and not take any more weight off the tongue. Just try to keep that stuff a little more forward for towing purposes, because you know, you get too much weight on the back and that trailer will want to sway going down the road. I've got 2 pieces of plywood here. This one's going to be the front of the compartment on the camper. This one's going to be the back wall, so if you're looking straight in, this is going to be right there. This is a PV isolator switch. It's for shutting the power off from the solar panels to the charge controller. It doesn't come with a kit. This is not necessary. This is just something I wanted to add to my setup. The only reason is I want to be able to shut everything off over the winter when it's just sitting there and the battery's too cold to charge. I just want everything shut off. It's not necessary, but it's something that I really wanted. This is a DC breaker. It's going to go in place of the mega fuse. The mega fuse will be perfectly fine, There's no need to upgrade to this. I just wanted just to be able to shut everything off. The sequence is the solar panels will come into here. They'll come out of this to here. The positive terminal from the battery is going to go through this breaker to the charge controller. I'll wire everything up and I'll have all these switches off. When I turn them on, I will first turn on the breaker so that the charge controller is powered up from the battery first, and then I'll turn on the PV isolator switch to power up the charge controller from the solar panels. That's the sequence the charge controller needs to be powered so that it's not damaged. First it needs to be hooked to a battery, then to the solar panels. Now to shut it off, exactly the opposite. I'll shut it off here and then I'll shut it off there. This is just a little fuse block. All my DC power is going to come out of the charge controller to here. From here it'll go to my lights and my fan. I find it's much easier to mount the equipment on a table and run as much of the wiring as possible before putting up the plywood. It's so much easier to work with gravity than against it. The breaker will mount on this little DIN rail. It's going to go right in there. This is a terminal block. All my negatives are going to come down and land on one side. I'll put jumpers on it, tie the negatives together. That'll be with a little thicker cable. So everything will be powered off of one. It'll come up and land in my charge controller, and that'll keep it to where I'm only putting one wire in here and I can make sure that that connection's good and tight. So I've made some jumpers up. You can see how the lugs are staggered. This one's got the connection surface here and this one's on the other side. That way they sit on top of each other like that. This is number 10 THHN stranded. It's good for 30 amps. Should be good for anything I need. This hole's for the inverter remote. This thing's gonna be really handy. Yeah, that'll work nice. Nice. You can see this is meant for a long distance remote. I would guess there's probably 20 feet of cable here. Quite a bit anyways, but I don't need very much, so I'm just going to kind of tie it up, bring some up here. It's going to pop out somewhere up here. So the way this switch works, it's not like what you would expect. The wires come in like this, but then this one goes to here. They're even labeled. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I need to take a positive here and make sure my positive's here, negative here, negative here. Now this grip will help support that wire so all the force isn't right on the terminal. Before I forget, I still need a hole to run the remote cable through this board so I can plug it in here and remotely turn the inverter on and off. Good. Now I have no idea where this foam came from, but it's a perfect fit for this battery, so I'm just going to use it for a little cushion. Renogy actually has a self-heated version of the Core Mini battery in the works, which would have been better for this project, but I was kind of ready for power now. Bright orange straps weren't my first choice, but that's all I could find locally, so I'm stuck with bright orange. Honestly, one probably would have been plenty. But just to be safe. Nice. This adapter was an afterthought. I ordered it on Amazon. It's called a Tri-Singer Solar Cable Entry. I think this is supposed to have a gasket, but mine did not come with one. Thanks, Amazon. Maybe it doesn't have a gasket, maybe it is just supposed to use silicone, but I'm just gonna put a lot of silicone behind it. Hopefully it will seal really well. These are the positives. You do not want to forget the inline fuse. Negatives. There we go. The way this is built, I've got a small aluminum angle here, a little bit bigger one there. That's attached to a stud. Then I've got these clevis pins. They've got a bunch of little holes in them and some cotter keys. So I'll just pop these out, pull this bar off, and these two holes line up, and then I'll pin it down there so it won't move while it's in transit. Right now, pretty solid. When it's folded down, it's just as solid, so it should stay nice while I'm driving down the road. So I've got everything hooked up. Nothing's turned on yet. I just got to flip this breaker and then flip that solar isolator switch. But right now, it's about 18 degrees outside, and these LifePo batteries, you're not supposed to charge them down below 30 degrees. This one actually has a battery management system, so it has under temperature and over temperature protection. Under 30 degrees it shouldn't be charged, so it won't allow it to be charged. So what I'm going to do is I'm using this little heater right now to heat this compartment only. It's running through a thermostatically controlled outlet. This will turn it on at 35 degrees and turn it back off at 45 degrees. And then the cord just runs around and plugs into the top of the inverter here. So basically the system is going to power this. This is going to heat this little compartment up so that the battery can charge, and we can test it out throughout the day, see how it does. So let's fire it up. We've got battery connection. Awesome. Now let's turn on solar panels. Yep, got solar panel action. So it's charging. Now I need to set the battery type. Hold this for 3 seconds. That's flashing. We need it on LI. Right there. Now I need to hold it for 3 more seconds. Now it's set. Now that that's set, let's turn on our inverter. Nice. Inverter came on. Heater is running. Yeah, let's see how this does. We're going to close that up and let it heat that compartment up. Alright, the heater just shut off. It's been running for probably 15 minutes. We're at 13.1, so this is doing great. I need to turn this on. There we go. With that turned on, I now have lights. Got my outside light. 13, still running good. Oh, I don't like that setting. There we go. So I'm finding that this heater kicks on about every 15-20 minutes or so, runs for about 10 minutes. So I think that's going to be the real test that I have for right now of how this battery does and how the solar does. It's I'll show you. It's not a bright sunny day. It's not extremely sunny day, but for us that's about as good as it gets here. Most of our winter is pretty cloudy. So I guess the big test for now is going to be how well it does running this heater about every 15-20 minutes for the rest of today. It might stay somewhat sunny and it might just cloud up. You never know what it's going to do here, but most of the time it's cloudy. Anyways, we're at 13.1. I'm gonna let this sit, see how it does throughout the day. Check back with you in a few hours. So the fan is hooked up to a 5 amp fuse, and I'm not sure if that's enough, but we'll see what it does. It's going. It's the highest setting, so that's pretty handy. I'll just keep I'll keep like a 10 amp with me just in case, but right now it looks like that's doing fine. You can see my lights are all on. That's working nice. Haven't tried these outlets yet. Just went and grabbed a drill, test these outlets out. Nice. Power there. Power there. I fired this kit up around 11 o'clock this morning. Now it's 5 o'clock in the evening. It's been running all day. It really clouded up for most of the day. So it's done really, really well to be able to run this heater every 15-20 minutes for 10 to 15 minutes at a time. And it's still at 13.1 volts. So the kit did great. I knew it would, honestly. My other Renogy kit has done fantastic so far. And I've really been happy with their products so far. So not a big shock, but it's always nice to test stuff out. I hope this video was helpful for some people, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.